Hey, what's up guys? In this video we're going to be taking a look at one of my favorite entry-level dash cams, the new Viofo A119 Mini 2. This is a single channel dash cam that records out the front of the car. It's got good video quality, recording at 2K or 2.5K, however you want to call it. It offers a nice feature set. It's capable of recording both when you're driving and when you're parked. Plus, it includes buffered parking recording, a feature typically only seen on higher-end dash cams. Plus, the A119 Mini 2 is relatively affordable and doesn't break the bank. It's the successor to the original A119 Mini, and it's got the same case design and most all of the same features. However, they've made two key changes here. Number one, and perhaps the biggest news, is they've upgraded the image sensor. This is the first dash cam to utilize the new Sony Starvis 2 IMX675. And thanks to this new sensor, this new dash cam has improved video quality, particularly at night. And then second, the dash cam now adds voice commands, and so now you have the ability to control the dash cam hands-free. And in this video, we're going to take a close look here at this new A119 Mini 2. We're going to take a look at the video quality, both day and night. We're going to listen to the audio quality. We'll take a look at all the different voice commands and see how well they work. The parking recording capabilities and the app for your phone. We'll take a look at some of the improvements that Viofo has added since the dash cam was first released, as well as see how this dash cam compares to a number of other popular dash cams. And then on top of that, down in the video description underneath the like button, I'm going to share a couple different coupon codes with you to help you save even more cash. And so with that said, let's go ahead and take a closer look now at this second gen Viofo A119 Mini 2. So to start things off, let's go ahead and take a closer look now here at this A119 Mini 2. So you've got kind of a standard wedge-shaped dash cam here like this, and we'll go ahead and power it on. We'll just plug in a power cable here into the mount, and the dash cam is going to go ahead and fire up and begin recording for us. Now we're going to have a couple different status LEDs right here at the bottom of the display, as well as 5 different buttons that we can use to control the dash cam. The display itself, it's going to be a 1.5-inch LCD display so that you can adjust the different settings, or like let's say you're getting the dash cam mounted, you just peel this tape like this, attach this directly to the windshield, and then you can adjust the lens like that to make sure the dash cam is nice and straight, and you're going to be able to see, we'll just turn the display on real quick. As I adjust the lens, you can see as it gets tilted up and down like that. And then as far as the different buttons here, we've got a couple different buttons. So if we stop recording real quick, this first button is going to be allowing us to go in and adjust all the different settings and options here in the dash cam. The second button is going to allow us to start and stop recording. And you can see kind of like the status LED to let me know it's recording, or if I press it again, it's going to go ahead and stop recording, that kind of stuff, and it'll blink and whatnot. This next button is going to be our microphone button if we want to turn the mic on and off. We can also turn the Wi-Fi on and off like that. And then finally, as far as any sort of emergency recording, we can protect the current clip just by pressing that button, or we can use the optional Bluetooth button or the voice commands available in the dash cam. And then on one side of the dash cam, you can see right up top, we've got a little factory reset pin. And then on the other side, we've got both the microSD card slot and a USB Type-C port. According to the manual, it says the dash cam supports up to a 256 gig card, though on the website, which I assume is going to be more up to date, it says that it now supports up to 512 gig cards. Additionally, on Viofo's website, they also list some recommended memory cards that they suggest for usage with their dash cams. Not all cards work well, and so I'll link to some of their recommended cards down in the description. And then as far as the other USB Type-C port, you can use it to either power the dash cam, or you can plug it into your computer if you want to do any sort of file transfers. Of course, you can always just take the memory card out and plug that into a card reader and plug it into your computer too, or you can just activate the Wi-Fi and just do file transfers directly to your phone. Now, there's 2 different ways to power the dash cam. I prefer using the USB Type-C port in the mount itself instead of the one onto the dash cam, even though both of them would work. And the reason I say that is it makes it a little bit easier to disconnect the dash cam if you ever want. So let's say you've got it installed in your car like this. You can just slide the dash cam sideways and then just pop the dash cam off like that. There are some power pass-through pins right here and right there, so the power can pass here from the cable into the dash cam itself, plus the mount itself is where the GPS rather, is going to be installed, and so the GPS information is going to communicate in like this. And then if you ever want to just pop the dash cam directly back on like that, it's going to go ahead and start getting power, and the dash cam will boot itself back up. And then taking a closer look at the lens itself, as I mentioned before, it tilts up and down along with the slope of your windshield, though it doesn't tilt side to side. Now, Viofo also sells an optional circular polarizer like this, and it just attaches onto the lens, let's see, like that. Just kind of clips into place, and that's going to help kind of cut out any sort of reflections, maybe from your dash on the windshield, and give you cleaner video footage, especially in bright and sunny weather. It's also removable too, so if you're doing a lot of driving, say at nighttime, maybe in the winter, you got a lot of nighttime driving, you can pop it off as needed. Now, with all that said, I guess under the hood, that's really what's new and special here with this new A119 Mini 2. So let's go ahead and take a closer look at what's under the hood here next. So this is the very first dash cam that utilizes the new Sony Starvis 2 IMX675. But unlike the original version that uses the Sony Starvis 1 sensor, the IMX335, this one uses the Sony Starvis 2 sensor, the IMX675. It's also worth noting that this 2K sensor is different than the 4K one used in the Viofo A119 Pro that's also a Starvis 2 dashcam, but it uses the IMX678. And personally, one of the things that I was most curious about is how this 2K Starvis 2 sensor compares to the other models, like the Starvis 1 version or the 4K Starvis 2 sensor. And with this dashcam, your standard recording option is going to be at 2560 by 1440p, often called 2K, or maybe more accurately 2.5K, but there are a number of other resolution options available as well. It's capable of recording at 30 FPS or at 60 FPS, and some people do prefer the 60 FPS option, because in certain instances it may be helpful to better capture license plates. That said, 60 FPS is by no means a panacea, and switching to 60 FPS doesn't automatically force a crazy high shutter speed or anything. And so regardless of the higher frame rate option, you're still going to be seeing some motion blur, especially when the light starts to get a little bit lower. Additionally, the 60 FPS with twice as many frames is going to give you both smoother video and smoother slow-mo video. For example, in this clip here, there's a motorcycle officer parked on the shoulder shooting laser. And if we slow down the video footage, you're going to see there's an officer on the other side of the road who's already got a customer. But if we take a look at the officer that's shooting the direction that we're driving, if we wanted to, say, identify the LiDAR gun that he was using, as you can see, the LiDAR gun has a white body, a viewfinder on top, and a handle underneath. It looks pretty similar to the popular Custom Pro Laser 3. However, taking a closer look, you can see that the transmit and receive lenses are stacked vertically. And so I actually think in this instance, it's the MPH SureShot, which is a gun that you don't see that often, but is actually a repackaged Custom PL3. But either way, as you can see, this dashcam does a pretty good job of helping you capture different small details. Next, the dashcam also offers an HDR option for high dynamic range. Now, it's still utilizing the older version of HDR, DOL HDR, where it's combining two different frames shot at different times. However, even though the sensor itself is capable of clear HDR, Viofo has chosen not to actually implement it yet because they found that number one, it adds more noise, and number two, it can lead to some light flickering and dark video. And the issues that it creates are actually more of an issue when recording at night, which is the time when HDR is traditionally the most beneficial. And so for that reason, they're using the traditional DOL HDR. And if you'd like more information about the different HDR technologies, you can see my original video going over the Sony Starvis 2 sensor itself. Either way though, coming back to this A119 Mini 2, I find that it does a good job recording both in dark and bright areas. So for example, when I'm driving out of this dark parking garage here, the dashcam is also able to record what's going on outside, such as capturing a guy on a bike out there doing a wheelie as I'm exiting the garage. But one of the main use cases for HDR is helping the dashcam actually capture license plates at night. It works pretty well here with the A119 Mini 2. I find a little bit better than the original A119 Mini, and actually better than the A139 Pro as well. I'll get more into the HDR testing when we get into the nighttime video comparison. Additionally, because HDR is, again, primarily helpful at night, the dashcam has an auto HDR feature to where you can have it record with SDR, or standard dynamic range, in the daytime, and then automatically switch to HDR at night. As a bonus, you can also configure the dashcam to record at 60 FPS in the daytime for the smoother video, and then switch to HDR at nighttime when it'll drop down to 30 FPS. And you may actually see this in some of the sample footage where I had the dashcam set to 60 FPS and I added the text at the bottom of the screen, but then when the HDR kicked on, you'll see that label turned on as well. And in that instance, again, the dashcam is actually going to be recording at 30 FPS. Now, taking a closer look at the video quality from this dashcam, we'll begin first with taking a look at the daytime video quality. And overall, I find that the dashcam here is pretty good. Like with any dashcam or camera in general, it's going to work best when there's plenty of light to work with. It's good at recording what's going on around you. It's got good colors, and it can capture details like faces and license plates. It does start to struggle a little bit when things start to get cloudy, maybe gets a little bit darker outside. And so like with many other dash cams, you're going to see a little bit more motion blur in those instances. Additionally, Viofo is also using a variable bitrate here, where it's going to be dynamically adjusting the bitrate or the quality of the video while you're driving. And you'll notice that because the file sizes will kind of vary over time. Sometimes, especially if you're driving faster, it needs to capture more data, but other times it can actually get away with recording less data. Then as far as video quality itself, let's first compare it to the original A119 Mini, and the biggest difference I notice are just things like the fact that the Mini 2 offers better colors and contrast. And then as far as the differences in terms of detail capture, if we take a look at some license plate freeze frames, it does look like there's some additional sharpening that's being applied here on the Mini 2, but because they're both 1440p dash cams, realistically here, they'll both be, again, pretty comparable. And then next, comparing the Mini 2 to the A139 Pro, this seems to be a much more dramatic difference. In this case, I really prefer the video footage out of the A139 Pro. It offers noticeably better colors and contrast, and you'll notice that driving around here in the daytime with polarizers attached to both dash cams, the A139 Pro is doing a much better job of managing reflections as the sunlight's hitting the lens. Plus, when it comes to detail capture, the added resolution available in the 4K dash cam really does make a difference. This is obviously not a surprise or anything, it's exactly what we would expect, and you can see it illustrated here. Next, let's talk about the overheating issue that we've been experiencing here with this A119 Mini 2. Now, this is different from the issue that was initially plaguing the original A119 Mini. That dashcam, when it was first released, if it would overheat, the dashcam could actually shut down and stop recording. Eventually, Viofo made both some hardware and software improvements to the dashcam, and so now that one actually works well. The issue that we're seeing here with the A119 Mini 2, particularly for the initial dashcam sold, is that initially when the dashcam is cool, the videos are going to look nice and sharp, but over time as the dashcam heats up, especially driving around in sunny weather, the video footage can actually start to get softer and more blurry. It doesn't actually overheat and shut down the way the original one did initially, but you may see some issues with the video footage starting to get soft until the dashcam has a chance to cool down. Now luckily though, this issue has since been resolved. Viofo's made some optimizations and improvements to the lens, and they started manufacturing updated models back in July, and so all the ones that are available for sale now are going to have the updated lens. And for this reason, this issue only affects early adopters, as well as people like myself who were sent units early on for test and review. If you've got an earlier copy of the A119 Mini 2, you can reach out to Viofo, and they can help you determine if this is what the issue is, and if needed, actually have the dashcam replaced under warranty. And so either way, moving forward now, all the dashcams should be able to perform well, even in hot weather. Next, let's take a look at the dashcam's nighttime video quality. And this is an area where I find that the A119 Mini 2, with its 2K Starvis 2 sensor, excels. For example, in this clip here, I'm driving through some back roads in the forest, and it's after sunset, so it's getting dark outside. And as I'm coming around this bend here, there's a deer that jumps in front of my car. In fact, there's not just one, but two deer here on the road. And because you never know if something important is going to happen when it's getting dark outside, it's definitely helpful to have good nighttime video quality as well. Now, if we first compare this A119 Mini 2 with its 2K sensor to the 4K A139 Pro, well, I actually prefer the A119 Mini 2 for a couple of reasons. First off, I find that the A139 Pro seems to push the exposure harder, so you're sometimes going to see these purple flashes on screen, again, as it's trying to boost its exposure when things get especially dark. Second, I also find that the video footage from the A119 Mini 2 looks a little bit cleaner with less noise in the image. And then number three, the HDR actually seems to work better on these 2K models, and so they do a better job of recording maybe reflective license plates at night, especially when bright headlights are shining on them. Now, admittedly, this isn't actually a huge surprise. 4K sensors are traditionally really good in the daytime where you get the extra resolution, it can capture that additional detail. But at night, again, traditionally 4K sensors tend to do worse than 2K options. This was true with previous generation sensors, and it looks like the same trend continues here with the Starvis 2 sensors. Now, what if we wanted to compare Starvis 1 to Starvis 2? What are the improvements here with this new sensor? Well, over on Viofo's website, they say that the Starvis 2 sensor offers 2.5 times the dynamic range of a comparable Starvis 1 sensor. And they also show that with the new sensor, you're going to be getting less motion blur in the videos, and I actually have found this to be the case in practice. So for example, when I'm driving through a reasonably well-lit shopping center parking lot, you can see that the A119 Mini 2's video footage is actually brighter than the original one, thanks to its new Starvis 2 sensor. The video footage out of the original A119 Mini is consistently darker, typically slightly underexposing the image, but that can actually wind up helping with capturing bright license plates. Now, I've tested with both dashcams set to the same settings, including no exposure compensation, recording at 1440p and 30 FPS, HDR on, and no polarizer installed. But what I found is that in most situations, the new Mini 2 is actually going to do a better job of capturing details at night, particularly when it involves freeze framing motion. Now, I wanted to do a little bit more digging to figure out exactly how this is being achieved and how it's actually handling the exposure. Both dashcams feature the same f1.6 aperture, and so both of them have lenses that let in a ton of light, which is very helpful for when you're driving around at night. However, it looks like the Mini 2 is actually relying on faster shutter speeds. It's exposing for a less amount of time, and so you're going to be getting less motion blur and better clarity in the images. Now the trade-off though is because it's letting less light in per frame, all other things being equal, you're going to wind up having darker images. However, this is where the new Sony Starvis 2 sensor comes into play. To compensate for these darker images, it's actually cranking up the sensitivity more to give you those brighter images, even though it's actually capturing less light per frame. And so as a result, the new Mini 2 with a Starvis 2 sensor, it's able to better freeze frame action and give you less motion blur while simultaneously giving you brighter images that make it easier to see what's going on around the car, which is very helpful. And so overall with this Mini 2 here, I find it to be a welcome improvement over the original Mini when it comes to recording at night. These Sony Starvis sensors are traditionally very good at recording at night, and it does look like this new Sony Starvis 2 sensor offers an even further improvement compared to the original. Next, let's have a listen to the audio quality here from the Dashcam. So we're going to first drive here on the highway, and then we'll switch on over to city roads so you can hear the difference. Now, when the Dashcam was first released, it was kind of hard to hear any sort of conversations or audio kind of recorded in the car. And so for that reason, Viofo has actually released a firmware update after launch to raise the levels of the mic. And so now it actually does a better job of capturing any sort of conversation so you can hear what's going on in the car. Same thing like if maybe you honk your horn, you're going to be able to hear that as well. Now that said, I think as a byproduct of that change, it's now, it seems like it's introduced a little bit more distortion in the audio, and you may actually hear that as I'm talking. The audio levels, my voice might actually clip a little bit. So while it does a better job of recording, I guess, so you can hear what's going on, the audio I wouldn't say is the cleanest ever, but it does still do the job. Now, if you'd ever like to mute the microphone, say for privacy reasons, for example, you can always do that too. You can either do it by pressing the microphone button on the back of the Dashcam itself, or you can do it just by issuing the voice command. I'll put the text at the bottom of the screen for the command, so I don't actually do it right now. But you can mute or unmute the microphone at any time as you wish. And speaking of which, there's also going to be times where the audio will drop for just a moment. That's actually the times where there's two adjacent video clips side by side that I'm splicing together here for this video. It's normal for Dashcams, of course, they record, I've got it set right now for like 1 minute increments, and at the times when you put the two clips together, there is a little bit of a drop in the audio for just a moment. A lot of Dashcams do that, and that one is present here too. But something that I like that this Dashcam doesn't do is the fact that there's no dropped video frames between the clips, and so when you're transitioning from one clip to the next, it's going to be nice and seamless. You're not going to notice it at all. With some Dashcams, there's some dropped video frames, or maybe even some duplicated frames that then you have to cut out to make it smooth. But again, with this one, the video is going to be nice and seamless. It's just the audio where there's just a bit of a drop between frames. Now, speaking of audio-related stuff, the A119 Mini 2 actually now adds voice commands, or the ability to control the Dashcam with your voice. And the Mini 2 now has 10 different things that you can say to control the Dashcam. I mainly use the lock the video command to save and protect important clips that happen on the road. Lock the video. But I also find it pretty convenient to do things like quickly turn on the Wi-Fi capabilities. Turn on Wi-Fi.
Wi-Fi enabled.
Now that said, in practice, I have found that the Dashcam does sometimes struggle to hear my voice, particularly if I'm driving with a lot of road noise going on, or if I've got the stereo and the music playing, so I definitely find it helpful to like pause the music if I'm going to talk to the Dashcam, though this is going to be true of pretty much any type of voice command or voice assistant type thing. And because it does sometimes struggle to hear my voice and do what I tell it to do, it can be helpful to turn on some of the additional audio confirmations available in the Dashcam. For example, if I'm using the lock the video command instead of having to reach up and press the button here on the Dashcam, or I don't want to do things like buy an additional external Bluetooth button, I'd rather just rely on the features built into the Dashcam itself. Well, in that case, you can have it set up to immediately start beeping right after you say the command so that you know the Dashcam heard you, and then it's also going to give you a follow-up spoken confirmation to let you know what the command that it heard was. Lock the video.
Video protected.
And to do this, you're going to need to have two settings enabled. Number one, you're going to want to turn on the voice notifications, so it says things like video protected. And number two, you're going to want to go to the beep sound menu option and then set it to all on so that you get those beeps immediately after the voice command. Now that said, turning everything on like this is going to make the Dashcam pretty chatty, both at startup as well as when you're pushing buttons and using the Dashcam. And as always with Viofo Dashcams, I wish there was a little bit more control over the level of granularity with the voice responses coming back from the Dashcam. There is the ability to turn off some stuff, like maybe some of the beeps that will happen right after you give the voice command. It'll still give you the audio confirmation for things like video protected, but it may actually take a while until you hear that response. And because it can be noisy in the car, especially if you're driving on the highway and there's road noise or something, the Dashcam may not always hear you, and you may not always hear the Dashcam either. And so I wish there was maybe a little bit more control over I really want maybe just the audio confirmations immediately right after I push the button. Or I really want to know in case there's like an error only, right? So like I forgot to put a memory card back in my dash cam, or it has a memory card, but the card is corrupted. I really love to have like important warnings like that, but otherwise have a silent startup and keep the dash cam quiet. And it doesn't quite give me all the level of control that I would like. So that's something that I've been requesting for pretty much every VFO dash cam, and I'd love to see maybe a little bit more control added here to the Mini 2 as well. Now, something else that's worth noting is there's no trigger word that you say before you issue the voice command. This is different from most other voice assistants that you guys are familiar with. Typically, you're going to be saying something like, assistant, do XYZ, right? And that initial assistant word can be pretty important. And the reason I say that is there's some commands like video stop that would stop the dash cam from recording. And let's say you're listening to the radio or a podcast or something, and the dash cam hears those words or something really similar. It could actually tell the dash cam to stop recording while you're driving. And if you've maybe turned off some of the audio stuff because you don't want a really chatty dash cam, you may not even know that the dash cam has stopped recording. That could be pretty risky. And so as a safeguard, I think it would be really helpful to have a trigger word first that the dash cam has to hear first before it then kind of listens for like a follow-up command afterwards. Now, to be fair, I don't know how prevalent this issue might be or how commonly it could happen. But that said, I would really like maybe a safeguard of just having to say a trigger word first before the dash cam will then execute any command that it hears. And then finally, one other use case that I found to be pretty helpful here with the voice commands for the dash cam is if you want to actually install this as not just a front-facing dash cam, but as a rear-facing dash cam on the back window. Some people like to do it because if you get a 2-channel dash cam, a lot of times the rear-facing dash cam is going to have lower video quality than the front, so some people might want to opt to have a front-facing dash cam on both the front and rear windows. It does mean you have two independent systems, so they both need their own memory card, they both need their own power cable, they're not going to be communicating in any way. And because they're standalone, you can't do things like hit an emergency recording button on the front camera and have that also trigger for the back camera. And so for that reason, it can be really helpful to maybe say things like, lock the video.
Hey Ma, can we get some meatloaf?
And the rear dash cam, if something happens, will protect that clip as well. Again, you may run into some issues with the dash cam not being able to hear you all the way at the back of the car. Sometimes it might be a bit of a struggle to hear the confirmation of if it actually triggered the recording. Though luckily, if you look in your rearview mirror, you can actually see the screen light up and give you the confirmation visually. Next, let's take a look at parking recording. So with the A119 Mini 2, it's got 3 different parking recording options. The standard option is going to be your auto event detection option, and this is going to give you both motion detection and impact detection. So in case somebody's maybe walking by your car to key your car, or somebody hits your car in case of a hit and run, that's what this mode is designed to protect. Plus, this dashcam also offers buffered parking recording, meaning unlike other dashcams that are typically asleep and then just kind of wait for an impact or something to wake up and begin recording, so they kind of miss the actual impact itself, this dashcam is recording continuously, and in case, let's say, a hit and run or something, it'll save and protect that entire event. 45-second long clip, 15 seconds before, and 30 seconds afterwards. And in this mode, it's going to be recording both video and audio. Next, the dashcam also offers time-lapse recording, basically taking a series of photos and turning it into a video. And you can go into the dashcam and choose how many frames it takes per second, anywhere from 1 FPS all the way up to 10 FPS. In the clips that I'm showing you here, it's recording at 3 FPS, and as you'll notice, it's going to be recording with video only, but no audio. And then finally, if you'd like to record continuously while your car is parked, both with video and with audio, you can choose the low bitrate option. This is going to have the dashcam record continuously no matter what's going on, and to save space in your memory card, it's going to drop the video quality and record at a lower bitrate. Now, if you're going to want to use the parking recording capability, you're going to want to pick up the optional HK4 hardwire cable. This is a power cable that you're going to hardwire into your car. You either plug it into your car's fuse box and it pulls power from your car battery, or you can use a dedicated dashcam battery pack. My battery pack of choice here with this dashcam is going to be the Black Box My Car PowerCell 8. But either way, one end of the cable goes to a power source. You then just run the cable maybe up along your headliner, kind of tuck it out of the way and out of sight, and then run the cable down to the dash cam itself. This is also a nice option for a cleaner install because you don't have like a power cable hanging down your dash or anything, and you wind up leaving the cigarette lighter port in your car free to be used for other devices. Next, let's take a look at the dashcam's Wi-Fi capabilities. So to turn on the Wi-Fi, you can either just press and hold the Wi-Fi button right there, or you can turn it on with your voice as well. Turn on Wi-Fi. Once you do that, it's going to go ahead and show you that icon there, and then in a couple seconds you'll actually see the Wi-Fi's SSID and password that you're going to need for your phone. It pops up right over there. Then you can head on over to your phone and connect to that Wi-Fi hotspot that the dashcam is providing. Once it's connected, you can grab the Viofo app. It's available for both iOS and Android. Then we're just going to connect to the camera like this, and I'll show you kind of the main things that I use the app for. So when we're up and streaming like this, as you can see, I can kind of wave my hand here in front of the dash cam, and you can also see it right over there. Of course, you can see it on the main display as well. There's a little bit of a lag, but not too bad here. That can be useful when you're getting the dash cam kind of installed up on your windshield. You can either use this to view things, or you can head on over to your phone as well. I also like it for changing settings. The one weird quirk is if you try to go over here and change the settings, it's not going to let you do it until you first stop the recording, and then you're going to be able to go in and start adjusting all the settings. Then once you're here, you can go in and adjust whatever you want. So the different resolution options here on the dash cam, or you can control how the HDR functionality works, or one of the things that I like actually better with the phone than in the dash cam is doing things like syncing the time of the dash cam here, or maybe adjusting the different date formats. I also find it helpful to go in if you want to do any of the custom like text that you see at the bottom of the display. I go in and adjust all of it here in the app. And then as far as all the recorded video footage that's stored in the dash cam, you can play it back here on the dash cam with its little screen, but I actually prefer doing it here on the phone, or actually popping the memory card out of the dash cam and bringing it over to the computer. But if you want to do it while you're sitting in the car, you can just hit this button right there, and it's going to go ahead and pull up all the video files on the dash cam. It'll take a couple seconds to load, but once it's there, you can see all the different video files. They're also categorized, so you can see all the video files. You can see the locked ones, parking files, photos, etc. If you want to view any of the files, again, they're all going to be right down there. You can see here's when I was in my garage, driving down the road, some parking clips, etc. If you want to actually play back the clips, you can just tap the button like this, and it's going to go ahead and start playing that file for you. And then if you want to actually download any of the clips to your phone for sharing or whatever, you can just hit this button right there, and it's going to go ahead and start transferring that video file over to your phone. Because the dashcam has 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, these transfer speeds are nice and quick. It also supports 2.4 gigahertz if you like, but I would recommend actually going in and enabling the 5 gigahertz option to get faster transfer speeds like this. Then once you're done, you're going to have the full high-res video stored on your phone, so you can save it yourself, you can share it with police, insurance, publish it to YouTube, or do whatever you like with that video clip. Finally, one quick thing to mention, if you're going in just to like adjust the different settings of the dash cam and whatnot, remember how we had to actually stop recording in order to go in and do that? You can see the recording LED is blinking right there, letting us know that it's not recording. Once you're done, be sure to just double check, and if needed, you can just restart the recording of the dash cam here like this. Now, earlier in the video, we talked about the improvements of this A119 Mini 2 compared to the original A119 Mini, things like the new Starvis 2 sensor, which helps with the low-light recording, and the added voice command capability. But there's another dashcam that Viofo has released. It's the WM1, and it's also kind of like an entry-level front-only dashcam. That dashcam is designed a little bit differently, and it's also a couple bucks cheaper. That said, I do think that it's worth spending a little bit extra for the A119 Mini 2, and let's go over kind of some of the key differences here between the WM1 and the A119 Mini 2. Now, design-wise, the WM1 doesn't have an LCD on the back of the dashcam, and it also has a wider form factor instead of a little taller one. Then as far as video quality, the WM1 is going to be a little bit worse than both the original A119 Mini and, of course, the new Mini 2. You see, the WM1 uses the same Sony Starvis 1 sensor, that IMX335, that's used in the original A119 Mini. So of course with the newer sensor, the Mini 2 is going to give you better video than the WM1, but there's other things to take a look at as well. For example, the lens on the WM1, it's got a smaller aperture, so it lets in less light, which is going to affect the dashcam's ability to record at night. Plus, the WM1 does not have HDR built in. It only has WDR, and so for that reason, it's definitely going to struggle more at capturing license plates compared to dashcams that do have HDR, like the A119 Mini 1 and Mini 2. The WM1 does have Wi-Fi built in, but only the slower 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi. The Mini and Mini 2 have faster 5 gigahertz, which definitely makes file transfers from the dashcam to your phone much faster. And while some people may prefer the form factor of the WM1, plus of course the lower price is nice, personally I do think it's worth spending the couple bucks extra for the A119 Mini 2 to get the improved video quality, improved low light performance, faster 5 gigahertz Wi-Fi, etc. And speaking of price points, if you guys want to pick up an A119 Mini 2, there's a couple ways to actually save some cash. First up, you can buy the dashcam directly from Viofo. Sometimes they run sales on their website, which is great. Plus, if you use the coupon code VortexRadar, it'll save you $12 off your purchase either way. Next, you can pick it up from Amazon. They sometimes have it on sale as well. Plus, if you use that same coupon code VortexRadar, it'll save you 5% off the A119 Mini 2. And then finally, you can order it from Black Box My Car. They sometimes have it discounted as well. And then if you go there and you use the coupon code VORTEX20, it'll also save you 5% off the A119 Mini as well. And down in the video description, I'll have a link to where you can order the dash cam. And when you click that link, it'll pop up a number of different options so that you can order it from wherever you like. And so yeah, that's a look here at the Viofo A119 Mini 2. Overall, I think it's a pretty great dash cam. If you're looking for kind of something entry level, that records just up front, that's got good video quality both day and night, that can record driving and optionally when you're parked, that has a nice feature set, etc. Of course, there's many different dash cams on the market, but I think if you're looking in those criteria, this A119 Mini 2 is going to be one of the best options currently available. And so with that said, if you want to pick one up, you can go ahead and do that now. Got coupon codes that I mentioned earlier. I'll also add those coupon codes down in the description for you as well. And so, yeah, thanks so much for watching. Hope you guys are doing great, and I'll see you in the next video.